Sparking Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. Well, yes, it's the royal wedding. We can't escape it. There's a huge amount of coverage of it everywhere. I've said recently that I think, in general, the royal family are more popular now than they've probably ever been. A lot of that is to do with this younger generation of royals who seem to be more approachable and seem to be more engaged. And we remember at the wedding just a few years ago of William and Kate, when everything seemed to go absolutely swimmingly. And yeah, sure, there was talk about one of Kate's uncles and perhaps he'd done some things in Ibiza that maybe he shouldn't, but it all seemed to go very smoothly. As this wedding approaches, I have a slightly different feeling about it. Now, it all started with a website in America called TMZ. It's a gossip celebrity website, and they go around Beverly Hills and LA and elsewhere and take a whole load of photographs of celebrities and well-known people. I have to admit I've been trailed around by them, and one or two photographs of me in LA that they published that weren't perhaps all that flattering. But, you know, that is the world of website gossip. It's not in any way mainstream media. And the story was that Meghan Markle's dad, Thomas, he's in his early 70s. He's a retired lighting director, worked in Hollywood, worked on some big films, actually. He's not had such a great time in the last few years. His health has not been great. Financially, things have not been good. And he's living in Mexico in, I think it's fair to say, fairly strained circumstances. But he's never been, ever, in the front of anything. He was a tech guy involved in Hollywood. And the story was, as we saw a series of photographs last week of him being measured up for a suit, etc., the story came out on TMZ that, in fact, these photographs had been staged. And when I say staged, done in cooperation with a member of the paparazzi. Some people have said money changed hands. We've no idea whether that's true, whether it was a tiny amount or a large amount. But what we do know is that the Mail on Sunday ran this as their front page. Exclusive. Meghan's dad staged photos with the paparazzi. And that, on the front page of Britain's biggest selling Sunday newspaper, suddenly changed the whole game. Within 24 hours, we're getting Meg Dad, I won't go to the wedding. The next day we get I'll be there. That's quite clever, I suppose. I'll give them credit for that. We get I'm just too ill to walk Meghan down the aisle. And right now we have absolutely no idea whether the father of the bride is going to be there to walk her down the aisle. And I'm asking you, is this obsession that the media have with Meghan Markle's family now tarnishing what should have been a great day this Saturday? And if you think, yep, the tabloids are completely over the top with their coverage and their level of intrusion, then call me on 0345 6060 973. Or maybe you think, no, it's all fair game, these people are in the public domain, then you can text to 84850. Or maybe you think, actually, it isn't really the tabloid newspapers that should take the blame for this, because after all, that's kind of what tabloid newspapers do. Why was Thomas Markle not protected in any way at all? Why, given the wedding's in 3 days' time, has he not even had a rehearsal for walking her up the aisle, given that this event is expected to be watched by between 1 and 2 billion people globally? Surely Buckingham Palace, with all their knowledge of the global interest that comes with royal weddings, surely they must have known that at some point there would be investigations into all sorts of aspects of the Markle family, but in particular that they'd be looking at Thomas Markle and indeed at her mother as well. And I have to say, you know, I do think that the tabloids are very intrusive in this country and often use tactics of surveillance and intrusion that sail pretty close to the wind as far as the law is concerned. And, I've not always been happy with some of the things that they've written or some of the methods by which they've gone about getting those stories. But isn't this really a complete and total mess up by Buckingham Palace? This guy should have been protected. We've seen in the past all sorts of problems, calls for the royal family by the media. Surely it was obvious this guy should have been protected. Now, what I'm told is that there were some press officers from the palace who were out with him up until 10 days ago, and then they've left him. Surely he should have been here in London. He should have been looked after. And frankly, he's been thrown to the media wolves. He's been portrayed as a money grabber, and we don't yet know whether he's coming to the wedding or not. And I would have thought, for Meghan Markle, this is all pretty distressing stuff. I have to say, I don't think he is a money grabber. Why do I say that? Well, for the last year, we've known this wedding was going to be taking place. He could at any point in the last year, if he's a money grabber, and given that he is a bit financially down on his luck, he could at any point in the last year have gone to one of the big global media organisations and told his story, the story of the family, the story of Meghan growing up as a girl. He could have done that at any point over the course of the last year, and by doing that, he could have made himself an awful lot of money. And I feel pretty sorry, actually, for the Markle family right at this moment in time, and I feel pretty sorry for Harry and Meghan. It is completely unfair that this guy has been left by the palace to the media wolves. That's what I think, and I think it is tarnishing the big day. What does Steve in the Forest of Dean think?
Well, Steve pretty much agrees with you, as usual, Nigel. They've left that poor bloke completely unarmed, at the complete mercy of this ludicrous media that we have roaming around us. It's just insane.
Yeah.
I need someone to help me understand why the prince hasn't even met him at any point. What is going on?
Well, I mean, Steve, we've had a lot of stories about the health of Thomas Markle. Now, what we are now being told is that he is having some form of operation today, Steve. Whether that's a stent or whether it's open heart surgery, we don't know. Presumably, if it is open heart surgery, there's no chance of him coming. If it's a stent, then he probably could hop on an aeroplane and get here. But would he even want to come now, Steve, if he thinks he might be a distraction?
Of course he wouldn't. At the end of the day, he's been left now with absolutely no choice. He can't turn up. He's taken all the thunder of the whole day away already. He is now the media attention, the centre of everything, rather than where it should be, where they were. It's just insane. It's like a deranged press obsession, as we get so often in this country.
Yeah. Do you think we're worse at this than other countries around the world?
I think we've got to be up there with some of the worst, haven't we?
I think so.
It's just incredible.
As I say, Steve, I'm drawing a distinction between a celebrity website called TMZ and mainstream media, putting this stuff, as with the Mail on Sunday, all over the front pages. Now, they may well argue that this is a matter of public interest, but this guy's not a public figure, is he?
Not remotely. No, I mean, he's been forced into that sort of limelight by the fact his daughter's married who she is.
Yeah.
But if there was ever any real intention of him being here, would this all not have been dealt with weeks, months ago?
Well, that's the mystery, Steve. That to me, the mystery is why he wasn't here 8-10 days ago, getting ready, making sure he had the right clothes, practicing the walk up the aisle, the knowing where the cameras were. I just find it incredible that he was going to...
I think it's been decided some considerable time ago that there was never any intention of him turning up. I can't see it, because this would have all come up weeks ago at the very least.
Steve, I think if he was never going to turn up, we would have heard about a heart condition 3 or 4 weeks ago, and therefore it would, on health grounds, have been a non-story. So I'm not sure that I agree, Steve. I think the Palace have dropped the ball here.
No, absolutely. I really do.
It's crazy. Steve, I thank you. I'm going to Vancouver to speak to Nick. And of course, Meghan Markle's programme, Suits, was made in Canada, Nick, wasn't it?
Yeah, Toronto though, not Vancouver. Toronto gets the shows that are sort of banking and stuff like that, and we get the weird wacky X-Files. And that's how we divide the money out in this country.
Now, give me a Vancouver view on the behaviour of the tabloid media and whether they are in effect tarnishing this royal wedding.
I mean, the media does what the media does, and you have to expect that we live. I mean, I said to a friend yesterday as we were discussing it, I mean, I think this wedding will, no disrespect to the Merkles or to the Windsors, I think this wedding will go about as well as the last time the British royal married an American.
Nick, that is pretty tough stuff, isn't it?
Well, the reality is the royal family now lives under a total microscope. It would be tough for the most perfect partner, and Kate would appear to be that.
Yes.
To avoid blotting their copybook, as we used to say, on some level. The Merkles are a very ordinary American family, and I'm not putting them down in any way, shape, or form, but all of their foibles, and I know if my daughter married a royal, they'd be looking at my drunken uncle and my auntie that doesn't.
None of us have got. None of us, Nick, have got perfect families, of course.
I think if this is the worst that happens, the palace will be happy and think we dodged a bullet because thank God they didn't look at the strange cousin that joined a white supremacist group or what have you. There's going to be all kinds of stuff that comes out.
Well, Nick, I have to say, I don't really agree. Craig on Facebook says to me, Nick, he says, some media just love tearing people apart. It's terrible they're picking on the future princess's dad. And I'm rather with Craig, Nick, I have to say.
Yeah, but that's what the media is going to do. We know that. That's what the media always.
So why did the palace not protect him in this last few days?
Because I don't think they can. I think the palace's ability to protect the royal family or anyone connected with the royal family disappeared with the advent of Facebook and cell phone cameras. That's the end of it.
Shouldn't they have got him over to the UK?
The last generation or so of the royal family. They're not going to survive.
All right, that's the way it is. Nick says from Vancouver. Thank you, Nick, for the call. And for those that didn't get the reference, he was referring to, of course, King Edward VIII, who abdicated to marry a twice-divorced American called Wallis Simpson. So he gave up his crown for the woman he loved. And Nick says it all ended very badly. Well, I don't know. Maybe they were very happy for the rest of their lives. We will never, ever know. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show here on LBC, and it's now 7:16. Incredibly tough week for the Markle family, and particularly Thomas Markle, exposed as having posed for some photographs with the paparazzi. We don't know whether money changed hands, and now we've got no idea whether he will lead his daughter up the aisle or not, but it looks like that won't happen. I'm asking you, have the tabloid media, with their obsession with the Markle family, have they tarnished the royal wedding that's taking place this Saturday? Or actually, is it the palace that should take some blame for this? Not Crystal Palace, folks. Buckingham Palace. Should they take some blame for this? Because perhaps they should have protected the guy and anticipated what the newspapers would do. Before I get back to that, 75 years ago today, there was a quite extraordinary historical event. I'm going to play you a piece of music and see whether you remember what it is. Well, if you haven't seen the film, the 1955, when you think about it, made just a few years after the war, the 1955 Dam Busters film, yep, it's in black and white, but I tell you what, it's absolutely superb to watch it. 75 years ago today, that raid, the bouncing bomb invented by Barnes Wallis, the 617 Squadron, led by Guy Gibson, who got a Victoria Cross for the action and subsequently was killed in the war, and they went to bomb the dams, the big dams providing the water for the industrial Ruhr. And they were dramatically successful with this bouncing bomb, breaching the Mona Dam, breaching the Ida Dam, not breaching the Sorpe Dam, which was made of a different construction, but it was an extraordinary event. But it was also an incredibly dangerous thing to do. And they were told literally 48 hours before the raid, that rather than flying at 200 feet all the way to the Ruhr, which is what they'd practiced for, they would in fact have to now fly at 60 feet because German detection of aircraft had got better. So there were losses on the way to the dams, and in a couple of cases it was pylons, in fact, that caught the Lancasters. 133 men took part as aircrew in that raid. 53 of them were killed. 3 of them were captured. So basically, if you were on the Dam's raid, you had a 50-50 chance of getting back. One of them is still alive today, Johnny Johnson. He was a bomb aimer who dropped a bomb on the Sorpe Dam, cracked it, didn't quite break it. But I do think it's an extraordinary thing to remember. The not only massive sacrifices that those that went before us made, but their incredible ingenuity. And as I say, if you're out there, you're young, you've never heard of a Dam's raid, you've never seen the film, I can't recommend it highly enough. Back to matters of this week and the royal wedding, this happy event, and I've seen signs, pub garden parties, and the wedding itself's at 12 o'clock, so people are going to be gathering from 10, and it should be a day of great celebration, and I worry that these tabloid headlines about Thomas Markle now subsequently talk about his health, whether he's going to come, whether he's not. I worry that it has rather tarnished it. Do we blame the media for this, or do we blame the palace for frankly dropping the ball? I'm going to ask Anna in Maidenhead what she thinks of that.
Hello, good evening, Nigel.
Good evening.
I think obviously it's got something to do with the tabloids as well, but I'm afraid the majority of the Markle family, and I think most people would agree with this, the majority, with the exception of Meghan and her mother, who has conducted herself with grace and decorum right the way through, are actually feeding the press with all sorts of gossip. Her half-sister's trying to flog a book.
Yes, and she's been described as poisonous by her own mother, hasn't she?
I haven't heard that, but nothing really would surprise me. She seems to... she was on Good Morning Britain the other morning, and Piers Morgan really gave her a bumpy ride, and then she started... but anyhow, aside from that... there's the ex-husband who apparently is trying to make a film about a showgirl or an actress and the prince. There's a half-brother doing
Anna,
something else.
And there are cannabis farmers in the family and all sorts of stuff. But Anna, I'm particularly focusing on Thomas Markle. What's he done wrong?
Well, allegedly, there were some staged photographs which were in all the papers.
Maybe, Anna, hang on, I'm going to put this to you. Maybe if the press are camped out in your street in Mexico and are trying to take pictures of you the whole time, maybe what you do is to stage some photographs to say, look, I've done it, and to get them off your back.
Maybe, yes. There is that alternative as well. Yes, there is. But it's not as though they haven't known about the, Harry and Meghan going out together and then subsequently getting engaged. It's not as though it's been thrown at them. They've had a little bit of preparation.
But if you've never, Anna, I promise you, if you've never been in the full glare of publicity and you've lived the life that Thomas Markle has lived, and you've had the last 2 or 3 years where life's not been easy, you're not prepared for this, are you?
No, I think you're right there. I think you're right. But having said that as well, it's also possible that, he has been used to, although in the background, he has been used to a certain amount of publicity because he was quite a successful lighting technician. I think he was an award-winning lighting technician.
He was certainly put up for an award, yeah. But
yes.
that is different to being a very public figure. And all I'm saying is, I feel a bit sorry for the guy.
I just hope that his health is going to be okay.
Yeah.
That's all you can wish for him, really. Although McDonald's is not going to help,
Well,
I don't think it's going to help.
I'm sure, but I'm not a nutritionist, but you may have a point. Anna, I thank you very much for your call. Messages flooding in. Lorraine feels strongly. This guy knew he was doing wrong, and that should be the end of it. Can't we get on with the celebration and get past this? I hope Meghan's mother will be giving her away. That would be lovely. Well, Doria probably will be giving her away on Saturday. Anna's been already said on this show, she's avoided the media, she's said nothing, she's not in trouble at all. But Thomas Markle, maybe he was hounded, maybe he was bamboozled, maybe somehow he was got into this, but he was left to the wolves. The palace should have had him here in London. He should have been rehearsing, practising and getting ready for this. That is my view. I think the palace have dropped the ball. Chris says, it's the media that are causing all the issues and making news out of nothing. I wish Harry and Meghan happiness, and I don't want to keep hearing about every little thing. Well, yeah, look, Chris, but that is the media. That is kind of how they work, isn't it? Billy from Glasgow feels a bit sorry for them. He says, I'm happy for them as a couple, but perhaps Meghan doesn't realise quite what she's got herself into. No privacy for the rest of his life. Like his brother, Harry made it quite clear he will do things his way. Kensington Palace are responsible for mismanaging this. The Queen and Prince Philip must be mortified. Whoever sent that, when I talked about the palace, yes, I think you're right, actually. I think it is Kensington Palace that have got this wrong. And I'm told that there'll be one or two, should we say, changes of priority have taken place this afternoon. And we might find that over the next 2 to 3 days that the old firm at Buckingham Palace perhaps have a slightly more superior role to those in Kensington Palace. Peter is a new caller from Lymington in Hampshire. Good evening, Peter.
Hello, Nigel. Good evening. Well, of all the times I wanted to ring in about the Brexit and the House of Lords and all that stuff, and I'm phoning up about Thomas Markle, I can't believe it.
Well, Peter, but isn't this what people are talking about tonight?
Well, very much so, yeah. And then I've gone through the whole gamut of feelings and emotions about the whole thing when the first pictures first came out of him, researching on the internet and things. You say, oh, poor bloke.
Yeah.
Feel sorry for him. How sweet. And then you realise it was all staged, and then you get, silly Burke, what an idiot. And then now I'm thinking, oh, God, for goodness sake, give the guy a break.
Yes.
And if he can, and I think, Nigel, if he is able to make it, I think, and I hope he does come, and I think, and I want the crowd to give him a big cheer, and I think they will give him a big cheer for coming, and I think all of this nonsense will be easily forgotten.
Peter, you are, I think, giving the English sense of fair play, and my sense of fair play tells me this guy's been dealt a very bad hand. It's very unfair, and I agree with you, Peter. If he comes, they'll cheer him. Peter, thank you for calling, and the next time it's Brexit in the House of Lords, you'll be welcome to call us again too. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's now 7:30. Is the media's behaviour towards Thomas Markle in particular over the top, and is that putting a tarnish potentially on a happy day that should be taking place on Saturday with the royal wedding? Before I get back to that, European Council President Donald Tusk, I have to say I always sort of sigh a bit whenever I say his name, but he's been in action today. He's been talking about Donald Trump, the other Donald.
Looking at the latest decisions of President Trump, someone could even think with friends like that who needs enemies. But frankly speaking, Europe should be grateful by President Trump, because thanks to him, we have got rid of all illusions. He has made us realize that if you need a helping hand, you will find one at the end of your arm. Europe must do everything in its power to protect, in spite of today's mood, the transatlantic bond.
Oh, it's all a bit of a whinge-a-thon, really, isn't it? Mr. Tusk, let me just tell you something. President Trump does not view your European Union with a great deal of respect. He sees it as a totally false supranational structure where bureaucrats take power away from elected politicians and the people of its individual member states. You're quite right, Donald Tusk. He's no fan of yours. But I would suggest to the President of the European Council that rather than giving this big whinge against the US President, you want to look a bit closer to home, matey. You want to have a look at what's happening in Italy today, because this new government that's been forming, and we've got two leaders, one of the Five Star Movement, one of the League, they've put a draft proposal for government out today. Item number 1, to demand the cancellation of 250 billion euros worth of debt. That's a good start, isn't it? They then go on to say, both of them, one, and I mentioned this last night, says there is unacceptable interference from the European Union. The other says he's tired of the continuous attacks from Eurocrats. And this is Eurocrats telling them that their policy to tighten immigration is unacceptable to the bully boys in Brussels. Oh, and while they're at it, they want to scrap EU sanctions on Russia, and they want their treaties rewritten so that they can leave the euro as and when they think it's appropriate. So the whole European project is crumbling. The third biggest country in the Eurozone is in open revolt against the whole system, and all Donald Tusk can do is say a few sad words about Donald Trump. And I do hope any of you listening to this that are still strongly on the Remain side, please take on board this European project isn't going to survive anyway. That's my view. Back to the media, back to the palace, which is where I really lay the blame. I'm going to go to Mick, who's a new caller from Basingstoke. Good evening, Mick.
How you doing, Nigel?
I'm doing well. So, have the palace made a mess of it?
Well, I'm not a royalist, in fact, quite the opposite, but I'm a PR consultant and I've worked on a couple of royal events over the years. And normally the attention to detail is phenomenal.
Yes.
And you have pre-meetings, they leave no stone unturned. And this lack of information from the Palace press office is just bewildering. And you know how the media work, the less information you put out, the more the speculation grows. So they're really just not working in their best interest whatsoever, which makes it all the more mysterious, really.
So, Mick, you're used to the way the Palace do business. They're meticulous. They're good at what they do. This does rather hint, doesn't it, that actually maybe it was Kensington Palace or somewhere else within the Royal Family. It wasn't the old firm doing this, was it?
Very possibly. There used to be a guy called Dickie Arbiter, who you may have seen on various documentaries over the years.
Yes.
We used to have all our meetings with him, and he was quite brilliant. And as I say, the attention to detail, you know, all the T's were crossed and the I's dotted, and nothing was left for chance. And it's just extraordinary. As I say, with this lack of information flow, you're just going to get press speculation.
I mean, knowing Mick as someone that works in the industry, the tabloids, and not just the newspapers, tabloids of all forms would be looking, for any story they could get, particularly in the week running up to the wedding itself. Isn't it totally extraordinary that Thomas Markle didn't have any clothes ready, that Thomas Markle wasn't, it seems, even being got ready to have a dress rehearsal?
Yeah, I know. It's completely mind-boggling, really. And as I say, it's the lack of information doesn't make any sense.
No.
All the papers are desperate. They're desperate for their own angle, and they're desperate for any scrap of information that they think someone else might not have. And they end up just making stuff up, as you've seen yourself over the years.
Oh, right now they're making it up as they go along, absolutely. But maybe that's because the vacuum is there. Mick, I bet the Queen is not amused.
I'm sure she isn't, no. And whatever Dickie Arbiter's doing these days, I'm sure he can't believe it either.
He might be getting on a bit, Dickie Arbiter?
Yeah, I'm sure he's retired now, but he was a top bloke and, as I say, a consummate professional.
Very good, very good. Mick, thank you very much indeed for your call. Well, here is a very angry at Marilyn. Marilyn on SMS says, one TV station has flown 3 people over from Meghan's family who were not invited to the wedding. Dirt digging at its best. Well, Marilyn, one interpretation is this is how the tabloids of all forms behave. Another is, this is all in the public interest. I'm not so sure. I do actually think that the media tactics are tarnishing this wedding, and I think that's very sad. The point is, though, that frankly, Thomas Markle particularly should never have been left in this situation. Giles is calling from Nottingham. Good evening, Giles.
Good evening, Nigel. I'm in agreement with you. I mostly am a lot of the time. I hate to say it, but I am. But I think Kensington Palace have screwed up big time. I think the fact is we know the history of royals and past royals and high-profile cases of affairs and things like this. And I think that going forward, I would have thought that with Harry and the profile he's got, and Meghan and the profile that she's got, I know it's not as large as what it is now, with being an actress, but I do feel they should have done their homework a lot more. Your last caller was quite right if he's sort of been a PR expert.
Yeah, that was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I think, best to say it, the word common sense. I don't think you always have to know something in life to understand common sense. And you're talking about an ordinary girl from an ordinary family. Yes, she had a career in acting, but then you're talking, as you would like to say, the firm, a lot bigger scale.
Yes.
It's like working for a local company, then moving into a corporate company. Two big different fish. And I feel that they know all the skeletons in the closet. It's not like they haven't got experts that could do digging around themselves to sort of say, look, this might come up, that might come up, what about this, what about that? And I just feel it's a total farce, and I do feel sorry for Harry.
Yep.
However, I'm not sure how sheltered he is. I don't know his life. How sheltered he is or how sheltered he isn't, but for something to be said to sort of say, look, what is going on? Because I'm sure these guys themselves do have some instinct of what the sort of British readers are actually looking at and hearing themselves. So I am quite surprised that she's been left sort of exposed with her family as they are.
No, it's horrible. It's horrible. And Giles, I feel a certain sympathy with Thomas Markle. Do you?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Yeah, Giles, I think that's how most of us feel. I thank you for the call. Somebody here on SMS doesn't feel quite the same way. What a chaotic mess. Couldn't they have afforded a wedding planner? Don't blame the royals. Many of them haven't been invited. Dad's already given her away once, so what's the problem? Well, OK, some people won't have sympathy. I actually have to say that I do. Mick says, come Sunday, it's all done and dusted, and the press will find another celeb victim to pick on. Jen says, maybe Meghan's dad will spill the beans after the wedding. Well, Meghan, we have no idea what will come after the wedding. Arthur is a brand new caller from Grays in Essex. Good evening, Arthur.
Oh, good evening, Nigel. I was thinking that perhaps Thomas Markle might be thinking to himself, because of the area he lives in Mexico, and Mexico's quite a dangerous country, all this photographing and putting him right in the forefront will make him a really good target for being kidnapped and held for ransom in the future. I know it might sound a bit far-fetched, but it happens quite a lot.
Well, I know Mexico's got some huge crime problems in some of the cities. I don't know, Arthur, quite how widespread that is. Well, if that is the case, surely they'll have to get him out of Mexico, won't they?
But I don't think that's planned, is it? I think that's where he's going to go back and live. And when everything dies down, they'll think to themselves, well, if we get him, we're going to get a lot of money out of the royal family.
Well, it's
£1 billion or something like that. I know it sounds stupid, but...
Well, it doesn't sound stupid, Arthur. It sounds really quite sinister and a bit unpleasant. Yeah. Do you think, Arthur, he's going to be there on Saturday?
I think it would be nice if he was there, yeah. But the reasons for him not going there, we don't really know.
OK, so maybe he doesn't want his profile to be any higher than it is. That's what you're suggesting?
Yeah, really,
all right.
That's what I think.
No, OK, Arthur, thank you. That's great. Well... Lots of views on this. What does Alice in Cobham think?
Hello, Nigel. I love you to bits. I think you're brilliant.
Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you.
I've just got a little bit of a different take on this. I'm just wondering, maybe the palace hasn't given such interest in Mr. Markle because maybe they're not very happy about this marriage.
I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be. I mean, Harry was the wild child, wasn't he? The boozing party animal, likely to get into all sorts of trouble, and presumably the royal family will say, well, she seems to have tamed him a little bit.
Yeah, but it's kind of like also, I think he's got a lot of his mother's naughtiness about him and sort of his mixed behaviour in the past. And I think they might be thinking, you know what, he's a little bit like Princess Diana. He's caused a few problems. Now he's given us more problems. He's marrying a divorced lady, American lady, a mixed-race lady. I don't think they're too happy about it, to be honest. I think that's why they've not put too much input into taking care and getting him over here and getting it all sorted. It seems so. But Alice, even in that interest.
Alice, even if that line of thinking was correct, the one thing the royal family, the one thing the firm don't want is embarrassment brought on themselves. And now they kind of have a bit of it, don't they?
Well, yeah, if that's the case, but they I don't know. Who knows?
Do you know what, Alice?
Anyone really knows?
The truth is, none of us know. What we do know is that this time a week ago, we'd barely heard of Thomas Markle, and now he's splashed over the front pages every single day. And Alice, I just feel a bit sorry for the bloke.
Yeah, I feel sorry for him as well, but there you go. It's just another trail of thought.
No, OK, no, thank you for it. You're a star. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusive on LBC. It is now 7:46. Thomas Markle, Meghan's dad, getting absolutely pummeled by the media. Really, really having a most difficult week. We still don't know whether he's coming or not. But before that, remember, if you want to hear more of me this week discussing Trump and how the latest UK legislation could cause one of the biggest upsets in Parliament, make sure to download my podcast, Farage Against the Machine. You can get it on iTunes. You can get it by going to lbc.co.uk. And to find out whether Thomas Markle is there, leading his daughter down the aisle, all you have to do to find out on the big day is tune in to LBC, where Nick Ferrari and Sheila Fogarty will be there from 9 a.m. in Windsor, giving you the full rundown. Thomas Markle, the media, the palace not looking after him properly. I mean, someone suggests here they should fly out to the USA and give the father an escort directly to the wedding here in the UK. That should have happened over a week ago. 2 weeks ago. He should have been here. He should have been protected from the media. He should have been measured up for the right suit. He should have done a couple of dress rehearsal runs down the aisle. I find the whole thing absolutely extraordinary and frankly, totally amateur. Des from Stoke says, the whole debacle sounds like a US soap script. I wonder what Prince Philip would say about this wedding fiasco. Well, we also don't know, Des, whether Prince Philip's coming. He was seen last week in the grounds of Windsor, driving a car, not been well, had a hip problem. Another reason to tune in to Nick and Sheila to find out whether the Duke of Edinburgh is going to be there. Let's go to Catherine, a new caller from Woking in Surrey. Good evening, Catherine.
Oh, good evening, Nigel. I feel really sorry for Meghan's father. I mean, we've all got some family members in our family that aren't perfect, and none of us are perfect. And
Sure.
He might have been misguided and possibly convinced that the photos would help somehow. As you said earlier, he hadn't, you might say, cashed in on his daughter's, fame. So he had plenty of opportunity, but he didn't. And I think so far he'd also behaved very well, as Meghan's mother had as well.
Yeah, I mean, this idea, Catherine, that he's a money grabber. He could have at any point in the last year done that, couldn't he?
Exactly. Yeah, I think so. So I think this was just misguided. I think it's just so sad, because I think, if he did turn up, I, for one, would be cheering. I think the whole of England, it would be fantastic if they were in the church and they discovered, or they saw him, and everybody outside was cheering, so you could actually hear it in the church.
You see, Catherine, this is what I was expecting tonight. There is this sense of fair play in this country. We don't like to see people being bullied, and that's how it looks to me, I have to say.
Yeah, I think he has done something, he's made a mistake, and, we all make mistakes.
We all make mistakes. We certainly do, and as you say, we all have family members that could cause us problems. Exactly. But, Catherine, you're going to cheer if he turns up. I think millions feel the same way.
I will. But
thank you.
Also, the palace,
Go on.
The palace, I don't think they can force people to do what they don't want to do. So they can only advise, and they might have advised him, and he said, no, I'll handle it from here, type of thing. And Harry also, I don't think he should blame himself. There's only so much he can do. I understand,
There is some blame. Catherine, I'm going to have to let you go. There is some blame coming in, though, now for Meghan. Nigel, I think Meghan herself has mismanaged this situation. If I was a royal bride, I'd make sure my entire family were taken care of and had a key part to play in my wedding. By snubbing her siblings and being so focused on herself, she has kind of forced the family to go it alone. Now she's paying the price, says Fatima from Brent. What about Meghan herself, I also get. Why hasn't she involved him? I feel sorry for Thomas too, but I feel she could have helped him in many more ways than she has. If he comes, there will be big cheers for him. There's a lot of this out there. There's a lot of you saying you'll cheer if he arrives. How does Pip from Welling feel about this?
Well, I might as well hang up my phone because that's exactly how I feel. The person most responsible is Meghan. What sort of daughter leaves her dad, however estranged, hanging out to dry, that the poor sop was actually reduced to being perhaps getting a suit, after one fitting a week before the day, when she's got the, cream of tailoring at Savile Row. She's a much experienced girl, and I find, does she love Harry? You've got to make the effort. Your family, if she had any sort of humanity about her, she would have taken care of it. At least got her dad over, got him sobered up, whatever it was.
Well, perhaps Pip, she was told. Don't worry, it's all been taken care of.
But she knows it. That's her dad. She all know that there's been absolutely nothing. Did she? Basically, it's just a feeling. Did she actually give a damn? And I don't think it. I feel sorry for Harry. Harry is a vulnerable young guy, and he's clearly infatuated with her. And doesn't, for what it's worth, I don't think the thing's got much legs on it really. But she could have done a lot better, and it doesn't show a very good kindness about her that she didn't take care of her old dad.
Okay, Pip, you put a very, very frank opinion over there. Thank you. Dorothy in Bristol is my next caller. Good evening, Dorothy.
Hello, Nigel. Lovely to talk to you.
Good to talk to you.
I agree with everything that last caller said. To me, why hasn't Meghan postponed the wedding and gone to her sick father's bedside? This man is supposed to be having heart surgery. Either he's had it today or he's got it coming. Dangerous at his age. She should be with her father. And Harry hasn't even met her father. And when was the last time she spoke to her father?
Well, apparently, Dorothy, allegedly they're close. That's what we're told.
Well, if it was my dad, I would have postponed my wedding and I would be at his bedside. Not leave him to the paparazzi.
The vultures. Yeah. But, Dorothy, postponing a royal wedding is no easy thing to do, is it?
No, I agree. And if you want my real honest opinion, I think Harry's making a dreadful mistake, and I think the Queen should have stepped in and stopped it.
Well, do you know what? To my knowledge, the last time the royal family stepped in directly and tried to stop a member of the royal family marrying someone of their choice, it was Princess Margaret, who wanted to marry highly decorated Battle of Britain ace Group Captain Peter Townsend, and that was a big mistake, wasn't it?
It was. I totally agree. But that was the only drama. He was previously married, I believe.
Yes.
And that's why the Queen stepped in. This woman, Meghan Markle, her family are causing... Well, they're not causing it. Meghan is. She should have gone to see her father.
Okay.
He should be the most important person in her life at the moment, with his heart problem and his health condition.
And you believe the heart problem, Dorothy, do you? Or did the heart problem occur? Did the heart problem occur after the front page headlines on Sunday?
Well, to be honest, Nigel, I'm wondering if it's even true. But you should know if it's true or not. I can't believe the paparazzi haven't been in that hospital that he's in and taken photographs of him in his hospital bed.
Dorothy, we may see it tomorrow. Dorothy, I've got to love you and leave you there. Thank you. Well, the tabloids are very aggressive. Somehow the palace, be it Kensington or Buckingham, have not done a very good job. But towards the end there, quite a few of you saying you think Meghan could have done more for her father. Either way, as we head towards Saturday, I do feel it is a little bit tarnished. You've been listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. I'm back tomorrow night at 7. At 10 tonight it's Ian Collins, but up next it's Clive Bull.
Nigel, thank you.